Hey YouTube, and thanks for watching Junkworks DIY Garage. Well, I am most of the way done with the body work here. Kind of waiting for my garage to heat up before I can finish it off. But in the meantime, I can do some other preparation. So I'm not using expensive paint. I am doing a Rattle can paint job. I'll just say that right out front. But not like the one I did on my Buick. This one I actually bought the paint that's supposed to go with this paint color. So we'll also, but I bought like one of the more budget ones, the cheaper ones. So we'll see how well it does or how well it doesn't do maybe. Yet again, and I've said this in my other videos, if you go watch those, I have a video on a rust hole that was here that I've patched. I have a video that I'm still working on for the body work. And then I'm going to have this video for the paint. So, like I've iterated before, I just didn't want a great big giant hole in my roof. That's the only reason why I'm kind of doing this the way I'm doing it right now. It is not going to be perfect when I'm done. If you want a professional paint job, go ahead and leave now, because this is going to be a make-do paint job. Hopefully it will turn out better than my Buick paint job did. But my Buick's still not corroding or rusting or doing anything. It's still holding up. I'm happy with it, even though the colors were quite a bit off. But I'm still happy with that. This, hopefully the colors will be closer. And I will show you how to kind of fade and blend even the clear coat. Because I'm not going to clear coat the whole thing. So, well, let's get to it. First of all, we got isopropyl alcohol yet again. You could use maybe lacquer thinner, but I have the alcohol. You could use wax and grease remover, but do not get any of the above, alcohol, wax and grease remover, or lacquer thinner onto your actual body work. That's what I like. Alcohol, it evaporates really quick, so it will dry. But if you get any of that on here, you have to let it dry for a long time before this goes back to the way it was. And I have had problems in the past with wax and grease remover causing soft spots in my body work that I had to go in and dig out and redo. Like I said, first of all, we are going to take the isopropyl alcohol and I'm putting it on a rag. I'm going to finish getting this cleaned up and we'll be back with the DA. Now I got you kind of zoomed in on the body work here. I found some 240. Take my mask off here. I found some 240, so that's what I'm going to use. I think I talked about 180 in the last video, but 240 is what I got, so 240 is what I'm going with. And basically what I'm going to do is feather edge all this out here. And the reason I'm feather edging, in case you don't know what that means, I'm stepping out the paint. So you got a primer. It looks like they have like an etch primer, probably an actual primer, and then the paint coat, and then the clear coat on top of that. So each one of those you need to step back a little bit at a time, so that when you kind of put your hands across here, you don't feel a ripple or scratches or anything like that. There's a bump here. If I go like that, I can totally feel every bit of that. So the saying is, if you can feel it, you can see it. So therefore I know some of these areas you're going to see it later on when I'm done. But yet again, we're just going for no hole in the roof. As you can see, I got down here pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. This is nice and feathered here. You can't feel any of it. And I was able to get most of this in here, but right along this area right here, there's these humps in the roof. I don't know if you can see those or not, but there's some large humps, the ribs that go across the roof here. And I just could not get a flat surface on there. So that's where the palm of your hand, and keep your fingers as close as you can together, Otherwise, when you sand, and you probably heard it before, you'll see those finger marks just like that. Hopefully you can see that. But anyway, so you want to use kind of more of this area of your hand if you can, or a sanding block. I may grab one of those later if I have problems, and do this by hand. Yet again, this is where if I was doing a more professional paint job, I would have probably a little thicker primer than I'm probably going to end up with here. So some of this you can get away with, because the primer will fill a lot of this real, I mean this is really minor right here, but because I don't have that, I am going to try a little harder. Once again, I'm not going for perfection here, and quite honestly, if this is your first time doing this and you're watching me do this to find out how to do it, you don't be striving for perfection anyway, because it takes a long time to learn how to do this and to get it done correctly. And I have noticed even in the it's probably been almost 10 years since I really did a body job like this, and it's been longer than that since I did a patch weld job. So you know, where I was actually carrying what it turned out like. I'm gonna call myself out here. I noticed when I was cleaning, when I was getting up here, I was putting my hands up here. And anytime you put your hands somewhere, your greases and oils from your hands will get into your paint and have problems. I have had that happen in the past before, unfortunately. I don't think there's too many painters or bodymen that haven't had that problem, but regardless, from here on out, really you should wear gloves just to kind of keep everything clean as you can anyway. Now I bring out the red Scotch-brite here, and all the areas where I'm going to want paint, or primer actually, not paint, just primer, where I feel I'm going to have to kind of go to, I'm going to scuff up with this red Scotch-brite. Now we got it all clean, it's time to get it all dirty again by taking a gray Scotch-brite now. You remember this was all red Scotch-brite up in this area. Now the rest of it, we're going to take a gray Scotch-brite and get that scuffed up there. Now the purpose of this is this will buff out. This is probably less than 400 or the equivalent of. I will have a video of all the products and machines and things that I used and cheaper replacement ideas that you can use. But I'm going to do a separate video because these videos are just getting too long, and I've talked about them during the videos to some extent, but I know I'm going to cut a lot of that out because just doing the work is taking a long time and it's making for fairly long videos. So if you want to know my products I'm using, the tools I'm using and all that, go find that video. To paint here, but I got a tap cloth here. Keep it in a little baggie. Well, I think the baggie's not really sealing very good, but that's alright. Got a couple of them. Got a cleaner one and a dirtier one here. And you can use these till they're pretty dirty, but you never want to use them straight out of the bag. You always want to pull them apart and then just kind of do this kind of thing with them. And then this is going to be the final wipe down, and you don't want to rub real hard. Just let it do the work with the weight of your hand. You know, I'll tell you right now, this garage is dusty and dirty, and it's too cold outside to bring this out and wash and all that stuff, which actually, for the primer part, I tend to just kind of clean the area anyway for primer, and then after the primer I would take it outside. Back in the day when I was working on people's cars, take it outside and wash it, and I did that rain, snow, sleet, or shine usually, so unless it was a really small spot. Alright, well, I think we're ready for primer. I'm going to put my mask on, so I'm not going to do a lot of talking. I'm just going to do spraying, and I'm just going to concentrate the spray, you know, just in these little spots right here for right now, as far as primer is concerned. So we're all primed up. You might also see there's some blue paint on here. I just took an old Rattle can of paint that I had, and it's actually kind of a satin or flat paint that dries a little quicker. Put that on there after this dried, just as kind of a little guide coat right in this area. This primer I'm actually pleasantly surprised with. So I got 320 on my DA. I'm going to go ahead and D8 it and get it done. You probably should use hand sand with 320 by now, but a lot of people use DAs for final stuff. I mean, this is not going to be a perfect job. It's not a show car. I don't need to worry about it, so we're going to use a DA. I gotta prime this a couple more times, which now I need to make sure I get that off because I actually put my hand right there. Do some hand sanding, pretty much 320 hand sand everything here, which is what you'll see. I'll probably fast forward through this. That's why I'm kind of trying to explain it, trying to get the videos done, but trying to put as much information in as I can. But hand sand 320, all this. I got to put a couple more layers of primer, clean that up really good, and then I'm going to back mask this again, but further out. And then I'm actually going to come back with the red Scotch-brite and go over everything, like in here where you can still see the pits, the dark spots here, all that we'll use a good Scotch-brite on. And up underneath here I'll use a red Scotch-brite. I might actually go with gray underneath here because some of this over here and kind of in the middle weren't completely painted, but it got quite a bit of primer on it, so I'll probably use red, and then gray out here. Same over here. And then in this area, I'm gonna red Scotch-brite into here and then use gray into here and back mask probably somewhere down here and paint all this. And then up in here, kind of the same thing where I'm gonna come over here so I can get a little bit of paint and stuff on there. You're gonna notice this because I screwed up. But regardless, and then in here in this seam I'm going to put some new seam sealer before I paint. So I'm probably actually going to tape that up, put the seam sealer in first. Alright, I don't know how much you saw. I gray Scotch-brited all this up here, up to the tape basically. And then I also decided I'm going to tape this off and across down here and clear coat this whole back half instead of trying to have it blended in this area. I'm just going to go ahead and tape it off here. It's a good spot. And here, and I'll have a little bit of blending down here and blending up into the top there, and the rest of it should be good tape off points. So I've let this dry, I think, long enough here, so I'm gonna yet again just take a red Scotch-brite over this. So you notice I just kind of whipped it on, so to speak. Did a light dust coat, kind of. That was just kind of a tack coat for me. Now you want to let this dry for a while until you see all the sheen go away, which I'm sure this dried fairly quick, but I'm using this spot in here where it doesn't really matter if something's going on, and I can tell it's dry enough. But I can go over this with a tack cloth again. For each coat of this, I'm going to go over it with a tack cloth, and I'm just going to put it on until I can't see the spot that I did right here, and I'm going to try and keep it all within this area right here, and this area right here, and the few spots that I have, you know, probably from here over, I'll have most of this covered, and then kind of dusted in this area as well. The next coat's definitely going to be a wetter coat. I'm still going to, when I get to the edge here, kind of flip it out, but I'm definitely going to put it on a little bit wetter. It's the next day. I had to walk away from it and do had some other things I had to get done. This paint actually does say you can recoat anytime, but anytime I let something dry for a period of time more than flash off time, which in between each one of these coats you want to let it flash off or evaporate the solvents in there, basically, is what you're allowing. So that's what I say. When you see it, when you first spray it, it's wet and shiny. You want to not see any of that before you start your next coat. But I got a gray Scotch-brite here. I am going to go ahead and just lightly kind of scuff over this, just as a precaution, I guess, to make sure things stick where they should. Also, this kind of takes off a few of the little dust nibs and things like that, which I'm sure I'm going to have quite a few of in here. Unfortunately, after you start clear coating, there's no more doing the tack cloth in between. That never dries enough to really tack in between. So whatever dust gets in it, gets in it. I have put another couple coats of paint on this to get it where I want it, where it's covering everything pretty good. I've let it dry for, it doesn't really say on the can how long it needs to be dried before it can be top coated. It really says you don't have to let it you don't have to sand it, and there's no time limit between coats, there's blah blah blah. So I don't like stuff like that because there's not enough information on there. But I've let it dry as long as I think I really need to. Hopefully we won't have any problems. I will say I didn't shoot the last coat on video, but I should have, because I did my last kind of over everything, and then I brushed it like this, kind of did the whole thing. And then this has a little bit of a metallic in it, so I sat back a little ways and kind of what I call fog coat, where you sit back a little ways longer and let it kind of let the metallics lay. I don't know exactly how to explain that. So I went ahead and tack coated it, or tack clothed it, so that hopefully I get as much dust off as possible. I'm going to go ahead and shoot the clear on, and we'll go from there. I don't want to go clear up in here, so I'm having trouble with these cans. I'll talk about that in my other video. If you can see it, but now that we're doing clear, we can't use the tack cloth. So I got a little bit of tape here because I see a hair. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There we go. And I just pick that off, and you can go through and little dust nibs or hairs. You might see it though, so you just gotta be, oh, I had it and then it kind of went away. I'm not going to go for that one anymore, because you know, sometimes you can make things worse. I was able to get a couple of them, but they're definitely not all going to come out. There we go. Right now, I will say I am also doing a thermostat in this car right now on another video, so that's what's going on my garage. This garage was not prepared for a paint job at all. And to get it that way would take me months. So this is a make do with what you got, as I keep saying. Well, I went in and had lunch, and I feel like this has actually dried quite a bit. Normally your clear coats don't dry so quickly. So I am going to go ahead and take a tack rag to this before I put on the next and maybe final coat here. I am actually using a different clear. It's the Rust-Oleum, because that other stuff, once again, we'll have a separate video on that, but the way it was spraying, as soon as I wanted to tip it up flat, it didn't want to spray. I had to keep it kind of an angle, and I didn't like that very much. It's turning out okay. My blend up here is going to be noticeable. I'll just tell you that right now. In most cases, if I was going to blend clear, which I pretty much never did that unless I absolutely had to, or the person I was doing the job for was I wanted it done as cheaply as possible. But normally I would take a little bit of lacquer thinner in my gun and put some lacquer thinner across wherever the blend was. They make products for blending clears as well. Not a big fan of them. I think lacquer thinner worked about the same. Yet again, this was, 15 years ago or more, so but regardless, I'm going to go ahead and tack this off really light. I'm not rubbing it at all. I'm pretty much just painting it like a paintbrush, real light with this, because I don't want there to be any spots where I might have a problem. See if I can get that one hair to just kind of come out. There we go. And we'll go at it with the Rattle, and yet again, using a different product than what was on here originally, or that I've been putting on here. Might be a reaction, and this whole thing might go to crap, but we'll see. Usually with Rattle cans, I haven't had that problem too awful much. I feel this getting ready to drip. You got to be careful with drips here. Alright, this is definitely a lot wetter than the other stuff, as far as that's concerned. So it actually looks a little bit better. There's a little bit more orange peel though from the other stuff, so we'll see. I think because I went further out that way because I was having such dry area out here, definitely probably going to see a line over there, but if anybody's climbing on a ladder to see what the top of my car looks like, then oh well. Alright, there it is. It actually flattened out a little better than I thought it was going to too. It's still a little bit wet, well, probably very wet. It hasn't been too long since I laid the last coat on. I did go ahead and put one more real thick coat over the whole thing. Started here, went across, and then started and went this way. And did a good thick coat, and it turned out alright. I'm pretty happy so far. Like I said, when we pull that off, we'll see how the line goes. This here turned out pretty okay. I mean, you can tell the difference between colors. You just can. It's not a perfect color match, so such is life. Especially since I couldn't, I didn't take the time to really blend it in here. This went a little bit further of a fix than I was expecting. I see a couple spots where my body work, like the primer didn't fill, scratches or two, but otherwise I'm pretty happy with it. And now is the time. You want to let it dry to some extent, but you don't want to let it harden all the way before you start peeling some of these off of here. So we want to peel this back, otherwise where you blend it at, this clear will kind of glue that tape down a little bit more than you want, and you could peel it off. It'll be a harder line. As of now, I'm pretty happy with these lines and how they've turned out, to be honest. That one is yet to be seen. But before it starts completely drying, we are going to start peeling off all the paper. But you have to be very careful, obviously you don't get paper in there. So I'm going to start doing that. There it is, all in its glory. There's a definite line right there, but I also think that once I clean this and took a buffer to it if I wanted to, or a little bit of wet sanding, I could probably get that out. Right here, you can, it's actually worse through the camera, you can kind of see, well there, if I take the shadow off of it, you can barely see a little line right there. Honestly looks better in person than it does on camera, because the shadows are definitely making it look like there's more of a line there than there is. But body work, not super great. You can see a little bit if you put the light just right where it goes along there, but I expected that. The dent that I thought would be there isn't quite as noticeable, but all in all, nobody that knows that wasn't there wouldn't see it. I'm actually decently happy, especially with a Rattle Cam paint job, how well the paint matches. Over here, between here and here, I mean, if you get the light just right, you know, you can kind of see it, but not a ton. I think a little bit of wet sanding and a good wash of the rest of it, it'd be good. I'm glad I just went ahead and taped this right here and cleared the whole thing, because obviously there is nothing there to see. And yet again, nobody's going to climb up here and see that once it's washed, or once this is dirty, actually more, you'll never see that line. So all in all, you know, is this going to last as long as a professional paint job done with professional products? No, it absolutely is not going to last that long. Will it last several years? Probably. Will it last as long as this car? Maybe. All in all, I'm happy with it though. I got to put the rest of it back together, but right there was the majority of the problems. Right here, there was a little bit of rust in here. As you can see, you can still see the pitting, but that's all covered up. I'm not going to worry about it. The worst thing altogether is right there, which actually, I don't know if that's where Bondo didn't get sanded well or what that's about. And right there, if I get it just right, you can see a little pock mark there where it just kind of like sand scratches more than anything, I think. But these are, you know, you'd have to really know what you were looking at to walk up to this and actually know anything had happened. Well, if you enjoyed this, or if you saw this first and didn't realize that I had done a big patch job here, go watch those videos. Or if you have a Jeep like this and you have things that need done to it, I've done several things to this now, mechanically and otherwise. So if you have one and you're looking for some videos, I have several. So go to my face below there, hit that, that'll take you to my channel, and on that channel there are playlists of all my different rigs I have and all the different DIY projects I've done. There's a list for pretty much every video I have. This one's the 04 Jeep Liberty. Go to that and you can see all the videos that went along with this video, along with a lot more. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching Junkworks DIY Garage, where I'm proud to say I'm a jack of all and I'm a master of none. You all have a good one.